Models of Early Childhood Education by Peyton Crumpler. Starting off with the Montessori model. The Montessori model was created by Dr. Maria Montessori. It focused on child-centered learning and saw child development in 4 areas: cognitive, social, physical, and emotional. Learning was said to be student-led or student-paced. The learning is student-led, but the teacher is the main guide, setting specific time for playing, asking questions, promoting critical thinking, and giving specific activities. The learning is tested through observational assessment done by the teacher. You do not move on until the child fully understands the topic. This is the idea of student-paced learning. This fully understanding the topic comes from when the students have both a concrete and an abstract understanding of the material. There is mixed age grouping, where your classroom consists of students that are a few years older and a few years younger with one teacher. That classroom will stay together for roughly a 2 to 3 year time span for the students to fully be able to know their teacher, know their environment, and get to know each other for full development to occur. There is also an emphasis on classroom structure, with natural lighting, life in the room like plants, and a little bit of a different, more open layout. There is no teacher at the front of the room lecturing in rows of desks. More so, it is open, a lot of floor space, play space, and toys laid out for the children to independently choose what they want to do or how they want to learn. There are many different options and many different stations and play areas. There's the concept of the 4 planes of development. From ages 0 to 6, you have the absorbent mind, where there is intense mental activity and processing occurring. From ages 6 to 12 is where reasoning and abstraction occur. From ages 12 to 18 is where children can create their own identities, including their values and emotions. Their years 18 to 24, children learn who they are and where they belong in the world. The sensitive period is a specific time when children learn best a specific skill, such as reading, and it is further assisted through sensorial materials and toys and activities. So if a teacher can see that a student is really starting to understand the concept of learning or writing, they're then going to capitalize on that and make sure that the student is emphasizing reading and writing during that time span so they can best learn it, because that is when they're in their sensitive period for that subject. There's also the idea of the 3-period lesson, where it starts off with introduction and naming period, goes to the association and recognition, where the children are shown and displayed what the concept is, and then 3, where the students can then identify and recall the information. The work cycle. The work cycle is where the students will choose an activity, complete the activity, and then feel the satisfaction of completing the activity. This helps students to learn how to fully complete their work and also how to feel satisfaction from doing so. And then lastly, practical life skills. Students learn how to have personal care and cleaning as they are at a younger age, more simple tasks, and then as they get older, they learn how to cook and garden. Some notable theorists or historical context for the Montessori model starts off with Vygotsky, the reliability on others for knowledge like peers and teachers, with the concept of mixed age grouping, as well as the emphasis on teachers interacting with the students. The constructivist theory is also a part of this because children are participating in initiating their learning by independently learning and the teacher just being a guide. Here's an image of the Montessori classroom showing the open floor space. There's no necessarily structured classroom as we would typically see in today's classrooms. There's a lot of natural light, there's plants laid around, and these children are all independently learning with certain activities and toys given to them. Some pros and cons of the model. Pros are children learn how to work independently and with each other. There is paced learning. The learning only continues when a child has mastered a subject, and you wait there until there is full comprehension. There is crafted and intentional environment with toys, teacher, play space, activities, natural lights, and plants to create a comforting and inviting environment for the kids. It also creates a love and desire for learning and a natural curiosity and desire for discovery, which will further be seen in their education as they continue. There are also cons. Studies have shown that some children do not take normal instruction well because they are used to only receiving guidance rather than clear-cut instruction. So when they're in the working world or proceeding on to other parts of their educational journey, independent from the Montessori model, they may not know how to efficiently complete a structured task that is given to them, and it may take them too long to complete it. With paced learning, it was a pro and a con because there are 2 sides to the argument. So it could be good for students fully learning the concept, but it can also prohibit the learning of other students as well as allow that specific child to fall behind if they're really struggling with a certain subject. There's also the concept of the multi-age classroom. Older students may be held back, and it's only reinforcing what they already know by being in a classroom with younger kids, which is good for a small time but not a long time. The younger students may not be able to grow at the level they should because they are exposed to too much. Older kids have different abilities and talk differently and more maturely about certain concepts than younger children, this can be intimidating and cause a lot of issues with parents. There's also the idea that Montessori model schools are very expensive and private because of how niche they are. Next up is the high scope model. The high scope model was created by Weikart and other educational philosophers and other educational teachers and people involved in the community. It has 5 key focuses with specific materials, organized toys and play spaces, 2, child manipulation of the objects and how they relate these objects to the real world. Number 3, children choose what they want to learn with the emphasis of choice. They plan their activities and they choose how they want to play and who they want to play with. Number 4, an emphasis on language. For children to have the ability to voice their emotions and thoughts eloquently, the ability to communicate what they have learned and what they do not fully understand, and also teacher-provoked learning and guided learning, or scaffolding. Then you also have children experiencing and reflecting on what they're learning. Children need experiences to be able to guide their learning, and they need to reflect on these experiences. There's an emphasis on indoor, outdoor classroom settings, independent play and organization, problem solving, and the concept of plan to review, where the children get to plan their activities based off what they want to do and learn. They do their activities and then they reflect with others based off the curriculum. And then you also have the idea of a daily routine. They have different types of play, activities, cleaning, socialization, and self-care skills, which are going to be specifically planned out throughout their day, and the times for those activities to occur will be planned. There's an emphasis on teacher-child interaction through independent assessment, activities, play, learning, all based off the curriculum. There's assessment, like I just said, based off observation, and then also family engagement is a large part of the high scope approach. The high scope approach is influenced by Piaget, Vygotsky, and the constructivist theory. Piaget with the emphasis on experiences and reflection. Vygotsky, similar to the Maria Montessori model, with reliability on others for knowledge, peers and teachers, with a high emphasis on group work, as well as the high emphasis on the teacher learning kind of alongside the student and helping them and assisting them. And the constructivist theory, because children are participating and initiating their learning, also like the Montessori model, where children are being able to independently learn and kind of choose what they want to do and the activities they want to do based off the curriculum. Some pros are the emphasis on real-world skills, like manipulation, socialization with emphasis on language, learning how to plan. It gives them confidence, which can benefit those in poverty or in minority groups, and children learn how to best initiate their own learning. There are adjustments made to the curriculum based off students' progress, where there is assessments based off observations, and once teachers observe the progress of the students, they can then adjust the curriculum based off how the students are doing with the information and activities. And there is also the pro of family engagement, so that learning is occurring in the classroom, yet also through the home. Some cons are there's extra required and necessary teacher training. The training requires a lot of time as well as sometimes money for a teacher to be able to know how to conduct assessments, how to manage their classroom, and how to correctly teach the students based off the high scope approach. There's a lack of resources for for teachers, which also kind of goes into the teacher training, as well as like the specific toys and classroom layout that they need for the high scope curriculum. And then teachers have a lack of support. They carry a lot of responsibilities just on themselves, with hands-on assisting each child in their educational journey, conducting research or assessments, lesson planning, and organizing their classroom according to the high scope model. Here's kind of an image of the high scope classroom with that specific teacher-child guidance and how the teacher is doing the activities alongside the students rather than just teaching from the front of the classroom. The Reggio Emilia model was created by Loris Malaguzzi. The next point is the 100 languages, which is kind of a little bit difficult to describe, but stated that children should be able to express themselves however they want to, through dance, painting, drawing, creative art, singing, music, relationships, reading, writing, etc. On the point of World War II is to talk about the historical context. After World War II, Malaguzzi believed that the school system needed to be less structured and less traditional, so he created the Reggio Emilia model. There's a partnered learning relationship with the teacher and the student. The teacher should learn and discover alongside the student. They should learn together so that they can both benefit out of the process. There is a parents and community engagement. The parents as well as the surrounding community should be involved in the education of every child involved at the school. There's an emphasis on the 5 senses. The classroom is structured on student exploration based off these 5 senses, with a lot of things revolving around them looking at different activities, touching different activities, the different smells that they see in the classroom, and how they can relate those to each other. There's also the 4 principles, the first being the emergent curriculum. The students get to choose what they are learning based off their interests, backgrounds, cultural identities, and based off their progress. The teachers have planning sessions to figure out the best thing to teach at that time based off their interests. The second is projects. There's based off an interest that a student has that they want to research, and it helps the child to discover more about something they are passionate about, but there is no time limit to this project. The third is representational development with 100 languages where students can express themselves the way they want. And then 4, collaboration with peers and teachers. There's also an emphasis on classroom environment with nature-oriented environment filled with different artworks, textures, sounds, nature, learning opportunities through nature, etc. The pros and cons of this model. The pros are that there is the adaptable learning demonstration shown through the 100 languages. There's a specific classroom environment and projects where the students can look through something they are passionate about. And then the cons, there is no set learning curriculum. It is all based off the students' interests and what they want to learn. So this does not allow for anything to be described and progress to be measured. When the students leave this setting, they may be vastly behind in comparison with state standards. There's no set testing or assessment. No testing does not fully demonstrate what the student knows to the teacher as well as to their parents, and there needs to be some sort of assessment. Children choose what they want to learn based off the projects and assignments. Since children are the ones that get to choose what they want to learn, they will most likely never learn certain things that they have to learn in order to be successful. For example, like reading complex documents or how to write certain things. Some notable theorists or historical context for this model is Piaget with the emphasis on experiences, but mainly on the constructivist theory, talking about how children are participating and initiating their learning because they are choosing their curriculum. Here's an image of the Reggio Emilia approach with different stations set up for the children to learn. There's definitely a lot more going on in this classroom and a lot more emphasis on natural light and nature. Next up is the project approach. The project approach has an emphasis on natural curiosity, allowing the children to ask questions about their area, the world, or a topic that interests them. The teacher will build this into the curriculum and then allow the students to explore the question by guiding them along, and it gives students a sense of purpose and a reason to come to school when they are passionate about what they are learning and they are excited to complete their project. There are in-depth studies of real-world events, questions, and topics. It motivates the student learning because the students generate the questions to research. It is used alongside the educational program or existing curriculum. It does not deviate from the curriculum. There is a plan and a step-by-step guide to follow to be able to have the project approach and integrate that normally into the school setting. You are learning through diverse means, and critical thinking is emphasized, allowing the students to think for themselves and ask questions during the project and problem solve if something is not really going according to their plan. And there also is an emphasis of the students planning with beginning, develop, and then concluding. Some theorists, so constructivists, the children are fostering their project and their student-led questions guide the research. And then for Piaget, you have the idea of experiences. And so overall, it's just the student's responsibility to construct their own knowledge, and the teacher's there to guide them like a lot of the other models, but for here they are creating their own project, so they have a product for their learning. Some pros and cons of the model. Pros are that it allows the students to discover their real world. It works alongside the established curriculum, and it gives the students a sense of purpose for coming to school, and it gives them a desire to learn more about a certain topic. The cons, there's not always a time limit on the project, and the end event may be difficult if there is a loss of interest because they've been doing it for a long time. Some projects may not interest or cater to all students and their abilities, and students may be left out in the group work or may take on too much. Here's kind of an image of this to illustrate it. And then my opinion is that the project approach is the best approach, and this website up here gives a link to a certain study that I'm going to be referencing. So there was a study published in the NAEYC, or the National Association for the Education of Young Children. And so in this project, she first off started to introduce project vocabulary and then gave the students the parameters of project and allowed them to ask questions and got hands-on experience while completing the project. They all wanted to investigate the neighborhood around the school, and as they walked around the neighborhood, took study samples, and asked questions, they were able to learn a lot. And it helped them to all want to come to the classroom, and they all learned a lot about the real world around them and how that influences them in the classroom and how they can influence the real world as students. It helps to kind of bridge the gap between the difference of school life and real life and shows that the two are cohabitating together. I feel the approach helps the students to want to come to the classroom and learn more about a topic they may have not originally been as excited about, and it can help them become passionate about the curriculum.